we go. All right, so we're going to do some very basic training over the next few weeks. We're going to teach the dogs to sit and stay and down and stay and come when called and walk nicely on the leash, okay? But this is not the answer, okay? I've been doing this for many years, and there's a common misconception that when you take your dog to some basic training and you teach the dog the basics, that's going to ensure that you're going to have a good dog. Not so much, okay? All the training in the world is not going to get your dog to behave if you don't deal with the issues that appeal to your dog's pack instincts in a way that's going to convince the dog that you're high enough in the pecking order to tell him what to do, okay? Your dog shares 99.9% of its DNA with its wolf ancestors, and they're still running on the same instincts as their wolf ancestors, okay? And how your dog is ultimately going to behave as an adult will be determined by how you appeal to these instincts, okay? Now, if you appeal to these pack instincts in a way that makes you appear to be a leader, your dog will be very well behaved with minimal training, okay? If you don't deal with these issues in a way that makes you appear to be a leader, all the training in the world is not going to get your dog to behave for you. I'm sure you see that your dog responds differently to different people, okay? Because already they're putting that little pecking order in perspective in their little mind. Now, over the years, I've kind of boiled this down to 5 major issues that you deal with on a daily basis that are the key to having a happy, well-adjusted, well-behaved dog, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how to deal with these issues, because if you don't deal with these issues, you can train and train and train your dog, and the dog is still not going to listen to you because it's not going to perceive you as being high enough in the pecking order, okay? And I have many clients that have been, you know, they get a dog and they say, well, I want to train this dog and do competition or, you know, whatever. And, you know, years they're out there training the dog and they call me up and say, I've been training this dog for 2 years and I'm just not getting the response that I want to get from this dog. And it's because they're out there training for a couple hours a night, come home, take the leash off, let the dog run free, okay? And you spend 95% of your time with your dog in your house, okay? This is where your relationship is formed, okay? And if you're not in control in the house, you're not going to be in control outside of the house. Simple as that, okay? When a dog is in training, they're in training 24/7. A dog is always in training until they're trained. And even a dog's free time, which we're going to talk about as we get into this training, the mechanics of it, okay? Even your dog's free time has limitations, okay? We're going to condition your dogs that when you say, okay, you're free someday and the dog is off lead, that dog is going to stay within a 30-foot radius of you, pretty much. I mean, you know, it's not cast in stone, but pretty much we're going to condition the dog to stay within that 30-foot radius of you because even their free time has parameters. They're going to learn, okay? So, in all the years I've been doing this, I think the biggest problem, what causes problems in older dogs, is we give our puppies too much freedom too soon, okay? The more you control the environment now, the more freedom your puppy will have as an adult, okay? You control the environment now, your puppy, I mean, after 18 months, my dogs never see a leash again. They go everywhere with me off lead, you know, because they perceive me as a leader. I have millions of years of instinct that say, wow, this guy's the leader of the pack. Follow him wherever he goes, okay? And that's the key. It's not something I taught them. It's something that I appealed to those instincts in a way that made me appear to be a leader. And it's easy. Once, you know, they're running on some simple instincts, But we tend, as humans, we tend to appeal to these instincts in totally the opposite way that we should be appealing to them, okay? So what happens is all behavioral problems are really rooted in one problem, is that the humans never convinced the dog that they were leaders, okay? It manifests in different ways in different dogs. It can manifest in separation anxiety, aggression, eliminating in the house, excessive barking, running away, just a dog that's out of control, that won't listen to you, okay? But it's all rooted in the same problem that the dog does not perceive you as the leader, okay? So, because they're running on the same instincts as their wolf ancestors, every dog, every canine, is genetically predisposed to seeking the highest level of the pack that they can possibly attain. It's kind of like nature's quality control for the pack. If everybody wants your job, then you better be good at it, okay? So your dog is hardwired to seek the highest level of the pack that he can attain. And end result, where he's going to end up in the pecking order is determined by watching how you behave, okay? So if you deal with these issues properly, with minimal training, that dog's going to say, wow, you act like a leader, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to do what you tell me to do, okay? Now, the problem with what causes most behavioral problems, almost all behavioral problems, is the fact that a dog, a domesticated dog, at 8 years of age, is still exhibiting behavior that an 8-month-old wolf puppy would exhibit. It's a phenomenon they call paedomorphism. Anytime you domesticate an animal, it never reaches the level of psychological maturity that its wild ancestors did. We've been taking care of them for 20, 30,000 years, okay? So what happens, what causes these behavioral problems is when we don't act like leaders, your dog goes, okay, this pack cannot survive without a leader, so I gotta do it. I gotta take the job, okay? And when they finally are convinced that they are the leader, they melt down because it's a puppy brain that feels responsible for you. That's the cause of your dog's anxiety. That's not excess energy. That's anxiety. Oh my God, these guys ain't acting like leaders. I'm only a puppy. I'm going to be in control here. I don't know if I can deal with this. Okay? So that's what causes the problems. And you don't see the real behavioral problems manifest until a dog is between 18 months and 3 years of age. That's when the separation anxiety, the aggression, whatever, that's when the real problems manifest, because that's when they're finally convinced that they're running the show, okay, and they can't deal with it. They melt down. They can't deal with the pressure of being the leader of the pack. No domesticated dog can really deal with that. So, the first issue that you deal with every day, and I think this is the monster, this is the big one that gets most people in trouble, is the instinct that every member of the pack focuses on, follows, pays attention to the leader of the pack. Okay? So, your dog, his instincts are saying, look kid, you gotta find the highest level of this pack that you can possibly attain. And if you're gonna be anybody in this pack, then I gotta get you guys to pay attention to me. Okay? They have a strong desire to get you to pay attention to them. So, what happens is, the way most of us deal with our dogs is when our dogs are lying there being good, we pretty much ignore them, okay? It's when they're getting into mischief that they get the attention, okay? So, the dog realizes after, a few weeks, a month in the relationship, that the most efficient way to get you to pay attention to me is to do something negative, okay? So we motivate our dogs. Any attention reinforces any behavior. So the biggest problem, I think, is we give our puppies too much freedom, and then we try to deal with unwanted behavior with verbal reprimands. No, off, drop that, okay? So the dog goes, oh, okay. A good way to, if I lie here and I'm being good while you're on the computer, that's not going to get attention from you, okay? If I grab your sock, that's going to get your attention, okay? So two things happen, and a lot of the problems with the verbal reprimands is that a lot of times they work. The dog comes in, you're on the computer, the dog walks over, he's got his sock in your mouth, and you say, hey, you drop that. And the dog drops it. The dog didn't want your sock, he wanted you to stop what you're doing and tell him to drop it. He wanted the attention, okay? Two things just happened. One, you're motivating your dog to get into mischief to get attention, okay? And every time you stop what you're doing and give the dog that attention, he moves up in the pecking order. You're nurturing a dominance problem down the road, okay? So, the attention, see, we're not going to use treats here. Some for the recall, for the come command. It's about the only exercise that I advocate treats for a dog over 16 weeks. Puppies, I imprint with treats, but a dog over 16 weeks, our reward system is going to be attention, love, positive reinforcement. But in order to motivate a dog to work for attention, you have to create an environment where the only attention that that dog gets is positive attention for positive behavior. This is probably the greatest pearl of wisdom I could ever give you about raising a puppy. Creating an environment where the puppy only gets positive attention for positive behavior. How do we do that? Number one, and this is where the obedience training comes in, all the attention that you initiate with your puppy should be on a reward basis. A simple set, okay? When you go up to your puppy and say, look at you, you're so, oh, look at those little ears, you are the cutest little thing. You know, we can't help doing that, they're cute, you know? The dog says, ah, yes, I'm getting the attention I deserve because I'm destined to be the leader of this pack, okay? A simple set. Fido, set. And I like to use the dog's name and the command that they're responding to in my positive reinforcement. What a good set. What a good puppy you are. So the dog says, oh, okay, I'm getting this attention as a reward because I work for you, not because I deserve it, because I'm the leader of the pack. Okay? So that's number one. And really, everything in this first 18 months of your puppy's life, everything should be on a reward basis. Either I work for you or you work for me. And if I work for you, I'm going to be a good dog. If you work for me, then I'm going to feel responsible for you, and I'm going to melt down at some point because I can't deal with that kind of pressure. Okay? So, number one, all the attention you initiate's on a reward basis. Use the dog's name and the command that the dog is responding to in your positive reinforcement. What a good set. What a good puppy you are. Okay? Number two, temporarily, okay, this is not forever, but until we have some real tools to work with, you need to create what we're going to call a safe area, okay? Someplace where the dog just can't get into mischief. Now, if your housebreaking is not 100%, if you haven't had an accident in a month, okay, then the area could be like a gated area or a puppy pen. But if you're still having housebreaking issues, then you need to use the crate as your safe area. Okay? Everybody crating their dogs?
No.
You should. You definitely should. You know, a crate is not inhumane. You know, when I go to a home where a dog is 7 years old, okay, and they still have to be crated, it's because people didn't use the crate when they should have. And then at some point, when these bad habits develop, they go, we got to go out and get one of those crates. And now the dog's stuck in the crate for the rest of their life, okay? We want to use the crate to prevent them getting into mischief, this negative behavior. And by 18 months, they should be out of that crate for the rest of their life. Okay? They're not inhumane. They're den animals.
And he was in a crate up until.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, 18 months. I crate my dogs up until about 18 months. Okay? So, If you can't supervise the dog 100%, the dog should be in the crate. When you haven't had a housebreaking problem in 30 days, then you can go to a larger area, like a gated laundry room, a puppy-proofed room. No beds, no foam rubber, none of that. Puppies don't need that stuff, okay? They're just gonna chew it up and get into gastrointestinal problems, and that can get ugly. So, but until your housebreaking is 100%, you want to use that crate. And I'll tell you, if you use the crate and you're really consistent, then your housebreaking issues should be over in the next 30 days. It shouldn't take long, okay? Usually my dogs are housebroken by 12 weeks. Done. I haven't had an accident because it's 100% supervision, and when I can't supervise them, they're in the crate. And they're very reluctant to eliminate in the crate, being dead animals. And there's also a common misconception that you can't put your dog in the crate when they're being bad, quote unquote bad, okay? Your dog is not burdened with the knowledge of good and evil, okay? Your dog just does what he does. He's not being bad, he's not being good, he's just running on those instincts. So it all depends on how you approach putting the dog in the crate. If your dog is getting bitey or getting a little feisty and you just have to do some paperwork or fold laundry, you say, come on, buddy, kennel up, I love you. You're being a pain in the neck, but I love you, kennel up. And if you approach it that way, then it's not perceived as punishment. You should never say, get in that crate, you're a bad dog, okay? Then they have a negative association. But you can put your dog in the crate anytime you want to, as long as you do it on good terms. Okay, so use that crate. We'll get rid of it someday. The alternative to the safe area is an exercise that we're going to start working on in 2 weeks. Okay, it's called the long down stay. Okay, when you can say down, stay, and your dog will do that for 30 minutes, and I'll show you how to achieve that. I know it sounds crazy, but it is doable. When your dog can do a good 30-minute downstay, that's when we integrate them into family life, okay? That's when they come out of the crate and you're eating dinner, they're in a downstay. The down is a very subordinate posture, okay? So it's the ultimate of you being in control, having your dog in a downstay. And the beauty of it is, number one, that's going to become your dog's normal behavior when you're eating dinner, cooking dinner, watching TV, working on the computer. They're just going to go lay down because it's the only behavior they're allowed to exhibit in that situation, okay? Plus, being a very subordinate posture, you're asserting your dominance while you're cooking dinner, okay? When your dog is stealing socks and counter surfing, they're asserting their dominance. They're pushing your buttons for attention. When your dog is in a downstay, they're showing subordinates to you. So that's the key. That's how I integrate my dogs into family life, is through the downstay. But until we have that good downstay, you have to have an area where they just can't get into mischief while you're doing the things where you can't give them 100% supervision. Now, the other factor in creating this environment is having the dog on a leash and training collar. Yes, even in the house. As I said, your dog is in training 24/7, okay? And what we need is the ability to correct negative behavior without negative attention, okay? So if your dog is on a leash and training collar and he jumps on the counter, okay, he gets a little correction, but when we correct the dog, we don't look at the dog and we don't talk to the dog. Okay? Dogs learn from association. So you want the only association with the correction to be the behavior you're correcting. So you don't look at the dog, you're always the good guy. My dogs have never heard a harsh word out of my mouth. I let the leash and collar do all the dirty work. I provide the love, the attention. Okay? And the beauty of this is, my dogs are living in an environment by 6 months of age that's 95% love, because why would I do anything if all I associate with that behavior is a correction? They're going to show avoidance to that behavior. They're just not going to do it, okay? So you have to have the ability. Now, with that said, for every correction that we're going to give our dogs, there's an alternative behavior that gets the love. Okay, so a good example of that would be jumping on people. Okay, if every time you give your dog attention, you make your dog sit. Your dog never gets attention unless its butt and 2 front feet are attached to the floor. Okay, one, that makes the attention a reward, not something they deserve, and 2, it's the alternative to jumping. Okay, so when company comes through the door, you say sit. The dog says, okay, if I sit, it's the only way I get attention around here, is by doing a sit. If I jump, I'm going to get a correction, not because I jumped per se, but because I broke the sit. Okay, so we're going to use that correction to correct the dog when they're not exhibiting the alternative behavior, not just randomly chasing the dog around the house and correcting them every time they screw up, but saying, this is how I want you to behave in this situation, and you're going to get corrected when you're not exhibiting that behavior, okay? But when you are, that's when you're going to get the love. So when your dog's in the down stay, you're going to be saying, wow, you're doing so good, buddy. What a good dog you are. Now, your dog is getting attention for the good stuff, which is totally the opposite of the way most people, when a dog's being good, they go unnoticed. It's when they're getting into mischief that they get the attention, okay? So that's the key. I think that's one of the greatest things that you can do for your dog is create this environment where they only get positive attention for positive behavior, okay? Number one. Number two, big issue number 2 is food. The whole dominance system evolved as a way of keeping wolves from killing each other over who gets to eat that dead caribou first. So when the pack eats, when a pack of wolves eats, they eat in order of dominance. That's why the dominance system evolved, is to keep order in those situations, okay? So the alpha male, the alpha female eat first, and then they sort of preside over the rest of the meal and make sure the rest of the pack eats in an orderly fashion. Okay, so your dog's instincts are saying, okay, the leader of the pack controls the food. The leader of the pack decides who's going to eat and when they're going to eat. So if you say, here you go, honey, here's your food, the dog goes, yeah, that's good. I'm going to keep you around. You're a good subordinate, bringing me food like that. Okay, if you say, sit, that makes the food a reward for doing something for you. If you say down for the food, then the dog showed subordinates to you for the right to eat. Now you're cooking. So we're going to also do a downstay for food. We'll do that, you know, in the next coming weeks. Okay. Resting places. This is a big one. Okay. You want to keep the dog off the beds, off the furniture. Don't lay on the floor with them. Not right now. Okay. Eventually you can get away with this, but not right now. I'll tell you. I've been working here with the SPCA for a number of years, okay? And I've been struggling, and this is one of the reasons we're making this video, is to show to people to try to get them dealing with these issues properly. People adopt these dogs, bring them home, let them hop up in bed with them, and I've been struggling with a 33% return rate. A third of every dog that goes out that door comes back. And I temperament test every dog that goes through this system. And, you know, they'll say, oh, yeah, Apollo got a return today. What? He was such a great dog. Yeah, he was on the bed, and the little boy went to hop into bed, and the dog growled at him, which is what a dominant member of the pack would do to a puppy if they tried to get on their bed. That's just instinct. That's not really a bad dog. That's just a dog saying, hey, puppy, get off my bed. And then, oh, this dog's aggressive towards children. Well, it never would have happened if the dog wasn't in bed. It never would have happened, okay? Now, once your relationship's in perspective, if you want your dog on the couch or in bed, you can do that. But it's one of the issues that you really have to deal with to put this relationship in perspective, okay? So keep them off the beds, keep them off the furniture, and don't lay on the floor with them. It's sharing resting places. It's not just being on the bed, it's you being on the floor with them, okay? It lowers you to littermate status rather than leader status, and it's just a big no-no. When I used to breed German Shepherds, I would tell people, if you let this dog in bed or on the couch with you in the first 2 years, I'll give you a written guarantee it's going to bite somebody before it's 2. Put it in writing. Guaranteed. They will get they feel very responsible for you. Okay? So that's a big, big issue that you got to deal with. something as simple as who goes through the door first. The pack leaves and enters its territory in order of dominance. So if you're going out the door and your dog is making a real effort to cross that threshold ahead of you, your dog is saying, yeah, we'll just get this straight. I'm the leader, you're the follower, okay? So at first, just kind of physically hold the dog back and get across that threshold first, and eventually, when we have some tools to deal with it, we'll make the dog wait at the door until you step across that threshold. It's just little things like this that seem insignificant to us are very important to the dog, okay? Last and very important is who's leading on these walks, okay? I don't think there are too many more efficient ways to determine who's the leader and who's the follower than to go out for a walk and see who's leading and who's following, okay? And, you know, you see everybody walking down the street with that dog out in front of them, 6 feet out in front of them, or even we might get that flexi lead and now the dog's 30 feet or 16 feet out in front of them, okay? And, you know, again, that's a dog that after all this training, you say, wow, I should be able to take this leash off now, okay? You take the leash off, boom, the dog's gone. Why? I've been training this dog. But then every time you go for a walk, the dog is the leader. Pack mentality. If I'm the leader, then when you take this leash off, I should be able to go wherever I want to go, and it's your responsibility to follow me, okay? So we're going to work on that. Next week, when you bring the dogs in, your dogs in, we're going to work on an exercise that's going to get the dog to focus on and follow you on a walk, okay? Now, this exercise there's way more applications to this than just going for a walk, okay? It's also going to be the exercise that's going to be the link that's going to get your dog to respond to your commands in distractive situations. It's called a focus exercise. Very powerful. So that's it. Those are the issues that are going to determine how your dog is going to behave. Attention, food, resting places, who goes through the door first, and who's leading on the walks. If you deal with these issues in a way that makes you appear to be a leader, then your dog is going to behave with minimal training. If you don't deal with these issues, you can train your dog for 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're going to take that leash off, and the dog is going to be gone. Any questions?
Well, I think the hard part is that the cage thing is even if we put Remy in the cage, so let's say do something, Remy just barks constantly.
Yes.
So it becomes a stress, so I'm like, okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to put him in the cage.
And if your dog is barking constantly while he's in the crate, he's saying, you were put on this earth to give me attention. You can't put me in this crate. That's a dog that eventually you're going to leave the house. You know, again, this is 18 months to 3 years of age. You're going to come home and he's going to tear your couch apart because he's going to say, where are those people whose function it is in the pack to give me attention? And any dog that can't be crated could never be trusted without the crate eventually.
So how do you know to stop barking?
You just got to kind of put the crate someplace where you can close the door and kind of ignore it, because he's got to be able to be segregated from you.
So he should be sleeping in the crate at night as well?
Yes. And the crate should be,
At night?
yeah. Why?
What? No, you can't sleep in the crate at night.
He's just over here.
Why not?
Because he's just,
He's sleeping.
oh, I know, but so am I.
Well, where is he going to sleep?
In my bed.
Right. Okay.
Or what if he just lays next to us on the floor?
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
That's fine. If he's on the floor and he's not getting into any mischief.
He's not in the crate now, but he's in our office. He's supposed to be. He doesn't be on the floor in there. He doesn't do anything in there. So he hasn't been in the crate in the last couple of days.
Okay, so then that's an option. That, you know, if you can use your office as a safe area and he's not getting into mischief and he's not eliminating in there, then that's a viable option.
No, he's
Oh.
being good.
He doesn't bark in there anywhere near as much.
Okay, so then that would be an option.
Okay.
He's gotta go there at night?
No, he can be on the bed next to your bed at night.
Oh, okay.
So he's gonna be in
But
the-
Long-
just can't be on the bed.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
I can deal with that.
Okay. Now, you know, if you find he's kind of sneaking into bed in the middle of the night, then what you might do is put a leash on him, tie it to the foot of the bed, so he's got enough room to move around on his bed, but he can't sneak into bed in the middle of the night. I don't think so. They're pretty smart.
When you say training collar, you mean choker, pitching collar?
I'm a big advocate of the prong collar.
Okay.
Used correctly, you know, they're controversial, but, you know, I've seen people, you know, beat dogs with a leash. That doesn't mean leashes
Yeah.
are inhumane.
Well, no,
It's all how you use it. Yeah,
His
they're,
personality changes.
yeah, and the thing about it is the prong collar was designed to imitate a mouth grasping their neck, which is how they've been correcting each other since the dawn of time. But the key to using it humanely and effectively is when you correct the dog, you kind of disassociate yourself from the correction. You don't look at the dog, you don't talk to the dog when you're providing that correction. Dogs learn from association. You know, everybody agrees with that, no matter what your training methods are. Sit, treat, that's association, okay? So, you want the dog's only association with the correction to be the behavior you're correcting, and if you verbalize during the correction, then you've taken the focus off what you're correcting the dog for, and now you're just the bad guy. So you're always the good guy. All that comes from you is the love. The collar does all the dirty work. It's a beautiful thing.
So just, like, if, let's say he was to put his paws up on the table, you don't love to just pull him down,
Yeah, just give him a little correction.
and that's all you do.
That's it.
Alright.
That's it. But again, you know, in a situation like that, he should probably be in a downstay, and what you're going to actually do is correct him if he breaks the downstay. You see, I can't put my feet on the table if I'm in a downstay. We want to have that alternative. We just don't want to randomly correct him every time he does something wrong. We want to say, this is how I want you to behave in this situation. You see, I think it's a much more effective way to use the leash and collar. It's not just chasing the dog around the house, correcting them every time they screw up, but providing that alternative behavior. And that's when he should be getting the love and the attention, is when he's doing the things that you want him to do. Just the opposite of the way the most puppies are raised. You know, most puppies, when they're behaving, they don't get any attention. It's when they're misbehaving that they get the attention. You know, and they realize that, hey, this is the most efficient way to get attention.
So leash on all the time?
Yes,
You
that's the
weren't
key.
eating everything?
Yeah, 24/7. Well, I mean, you don't leave a leash and collar on an unsupervised dog. So when he's in the office, you take it off. But the first thing you do when you get up in the morning, and the first thing you do when you get him out of that office, is put that leash and collar on. And the reason for that is, if you're the least bit inconsistent in the use of the leash and collar, you doom the dog to having to wear the leash and collar for the rest of his life. It's the only time he's going to behave. If you're really 100% consistent, then eventually the behavior he's exhibiting on that leash and collar will just become his normal behavior. I mean, I am super consistent with that leash and collar. You also want to get yourself a 30-foot long line, okay? This is going to be his free time. You want to play ball with him, you want to, okay? Then he's on his 30-foot long line, but you're always in control. You know, when you say, Remy, come, Remy, you said? When you say, Remy, come, you want to have the ability to back that up, because, you know, he's at a point in his life. He's like the equivalent of a human teenager right now, okay? And he's
Training on that?
and you know, he's saying, you know, I don't know if I should have to come every time you call me. I'm never going to be anybody in this pack if I have to dance to your tune. So you have to have the ability to back up everything you tell this dog to do. And then eventually he's going to say, wow, you're in control. When you say something, and it's not like we're getting upset with the dog. We say it once, and then we have the ability to reel him in and then love him, okay? So it's all very happy, it's all very positive, rather than, you know, so many dogs have associations with the recall, the come command. Damn it, get over here, I'm late for work, you know, because we give our dogs too much freedom too soon, okay? So if you can say, Remy, come, and if he blows you off, you just reel him in and say, that's a good boy, what a good come. It's all positive.
Oh,
So
God.
we shouldn't let him loose in the backyard with the fence, then we should take him out on the leash.
It depends. Every dog's an individual. Now, if he's out in the fenced yard and you say, Remy, come, does he come every time?
He's coming in the house, right?
Yeah.
He does?
Yes.
Every time?
Yes.
Fine. Good. Go for it then. If you see him start to blow you off, then you say,
If we're out playing with him in the backyard, he won't. But if we're in the house, we gotta let him in and say, come every time he comes.
okay.
if
So
we're
then when you're out
playing,
playing, well, see, anytime you're with your dog, he needs to be on a leash and collar. And if you're playing with him, you want to have him on that 30-foot long line. Okay?
Alright, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. And then that way, eventually you'd be able to play with him at the park. You'd be able to play with him anywhere because he's on this 30-foot long line. And that's just the idea that when he's on that long line, that you're in control. This is going to be the key to weaning him off the leash and collar. That long line is sort of the transition from on lead to off lead. And we'll get into that, towards the end, how to wean your dog off the leash and collar, because that's always my goal. I think dogs live longer, happier lives when they can make their own decisions. But if you want your dog to make his own decisions, you have to give the dog the experiences that he's going to base those decisions on, so he's making the right decisions. But then at some point, you take that leash and collar off and you let him go, and they say they're going to make all the right decisions based on the experiences you've given the dog. When I make this decision, all I get in that deal is a correction. When I make this decision, that's when I get the attention. That's when I get the love.
It really is like having a kid.
Yep.
no idea.
Oh my Lord.
This is going through terrible twos.
Well, raising a puppy should be a pleasant experience, okay? If you raise your puppy in a controlled environment and you use your leash, you use your collar, you use your safe area, okay? I love raising puppies. I love it because I don't give them an opportunity to drive me nuts. When you bring a puppy into your home, that's a blank canvas, a raw piece of clay. What you're going to end up with is all determined by how you deal with them during this important developmental period, So it's a great opportunity to have a great dog if you deal with this stuff properly. But the key is being in control, because ultimately how your dog is going to behave will be determined by who the dog perceives as being in control. So if you're always in control, he's going to say, wow, you're in control, you're the leader of this pack. Simple as that.
So that can work with even two people being the dominant?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Every person in the house should be down.
Also, every person in the house should be dominant over the dog.
Yes. Yes. Well, you have to think, I'm not saying everyone is the alpha, okay, but think of it this way. Say you had a pack of 8 wolves, okay? Omega, the number 8, is going to follow the other 7. Okay? He's going to eat after them. They're going to get first choice of the resting places. They're going to leave the territory first. They're going to lead. Okay? So no matter how many you have in your little pack, as long as you're dealing with the attention and the food and the resting places and blah, 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 they'll all be perceived as higher in the pecking order. And that's the key. As long as you're higher in the pecking order.
So we just have to make sure we're all consistent in what we're doing.
Consistent is the name of the game. Not 99%,
100%.
100%. It really is. But and it's your dog that will reap the benefits of this. Dogs that are raised in this type of environment are very relaxed, very happy, and they get to do more things. I run kennels for many, many years in my life. And I can't tell you how many times people come to me and say, hey, can you watch Rex this weekend because we're having a family reunion? And I think to myself, God, isn't Rex part of the family? Right? But Rex doesn't behave. Rex doesn't get to go on vacation. Rex doesn't get to go camping. He doesn't get to go to family reunions because he was never trained. So he ends up in the kennel. He ends up in the crate. So, you know, the more you control the environment now, the more fun. I mean, I've taken my dogs on 2-week canoe trips up in Canada, you know? Oh, absolutely. Me and my dog in my canoe up in Canada, you know. My dogs have had great lives. They've done so many exciting, wonderful things because they're a pleasure to be around and they behave. You know, it's great. Like I said, it's not just good for you. The dog reaps the benefits also. You know, they have a much better life for it.
That's good. Awesome.
We're not too far off.
You think you're on the right road? Good.
Is it, so do your dogs